here with a brand new video, and today we're going to be talking about, yes, in this video we are definitely talking about Imperial Order in this video, kind of as a response to MCool40, because he made a video discussing Imperial Order as to why it's broken, and I'm going to be kind of enlisting I'm throwing my hat in the ring and kind of telling you as to why it's perfectly reasonably fine right now. So let's just jump right into it. So the first thing that I want to address, that people are falsely comparing this card to Snatch Deal, and I don't think it's necessarily fair because Snatch Deal is much more broken than Imperial Order in some ways. First of all, Snatch Deal is searchable. Secondly, Snatch Deal is a game-breaking card. And thirdly, while the 1,000 points is also not required, it's not as prevalent as Imperial Order. In fact, your opponent could turn that off, or in fact, if you just don't need the monster anymore, you could physically turn that off. And to be perfectly honest, playing around with Snatch Deal is a lot easier to play around than Imperial Order. But that being said, this card, Snatch Deal, is searchable with Hidden Armor. For those of you who don't know what this card does, for those of you who never played during the brief moment that Imperial Order was legal, it sends the top card of your deck to the graveyard, and then add one equipped spell for a card from your deck or graveyard to your hand, but you can't normal summon or reset during that turn. So basically, even if if it's in the graveyard, you can just activate Hidden Armor and you just basically have 4 of them. It's kind of insane, but Snatch Deal is what made this card viable. But the reason why Snatch Deal is completely insane over Imperial Order is because Snatch Deal actually physically takes things from your opponent, and it doesn't give it back. You don't have to give it back, and you can also do whatever you want with that monster. Much the same way like the Brain Control before its errata got its initial hit. That's why Big Eye was so popular. Mind Control was pretty prevalent. Change of Heart has not been seen legally ever since for a really long time. So I don't think that I think it's safe to say that cards like this should probably stay there, and that is banned. However, the difference between Imperial Order is the fact that the 700 life points is not mandatory. So it is mandatory, so you have to keep paying that life points, even if it's your last life. You have to physically pay it, and there's no very efficient way to turn this card off currently. And it kind of also hurts you in the long run. So whereas Snatch Deal did never hurt you, 1,000 again, having your opponent gain 1,000 or 2,000 points over the course of the game isn't game breaking, and is definitely probably not going to win in the game. However, this card does hurt you a lot. It's kind of an equal trade, and you're really only gaining value off this card if you're playing against a Pendulum deck, which runs multiple spells in the form of Pendulum monsters. So currently, I think if you're playing this Imperial Order, you're probably going to be stopping at the very most. The average deck plays around 10 spells, and unless you're playing like Paleozoics or Burning Abyss, they play even less than that. So you're hitting a very narrow window. I'm not saying that by all means. I'm not saying that Imperial Order isn't broken, or Imperial Order just isn't a feasible argumentative card that this card should probably still be limited, not banned. I don't think this card should be banned right now, but I think as of right now, it's perfectly fine. Unless you're playing against a Pendulum deck, you're probably going to be in that case where you're playing against a Pendulum deck, you're probably going to be showing off 15 plus cards instead of just like 10 cards, because your opponent is playing a Pendulum deck, because that would make sense. But currently there are only like one feasible out that's not like super inconvenient, and that is like Dust Tornado. And Dust Tornado by itself is already inconvenient because A, it's a trap card, so you have to wait for it, and 2, you kind of have to risk it, because you either have to play this card to turn it off at the right moment where you're about to go off and you're not about to beat your opponent, or you're playing this card just to get rid of Imperial Order on your opponent's side of the field. Now, the current decks, I think, for the most part, Zoo, Paleozoics, and Infernoids, are more reliant on the board presence than the spell and traps in their deck. Minus like Infernoids, because they play like Reasoning, Lawn Mowing, Extort, and Monster Gate. But for the most part, I think that deck is also a very board controlled, board focused deck. And even like decks like ABC and Blue Eyes, and like actually no, maybe not Blue Eyes, but like ABC or DDDs, that deck is a more board focused deck. Those decks are more board focused than spell and trap cards. That's why you see very few spell and trap cards in like Zoo, in Paleozoic. Paleozoic spell like maybe like maybe like 4 or 5, maybe 6 spells at any given time. And they're in Zoo they're playing maybe not even that. They're playing like maybe the Kaiju engine, board clears and all whatnot. But I think for the most part they don't really have room to play this card. And plus, I think you're paying 700 life points during each turn, and if you can't physically turn it off to where you're about to control your opponent or you're about to win the game, you're gonna end up killing yourself. Now we will be getting this card in the near future, which is a counter to this card. We're also getting another card in the Maximum Crisis called the Eternal Nightmare, where you pay 1,000 life points to target a spell or trap card on the field and then destroy it. I think it either destroys it or banishes it. That can technically be an out as well, but that card's not really consistent. Even though I said that card is actually kind of good because it outs Imperial Order, but I think that Imperial Order as of right now currently is fine. Also, I'm also not recommending that this card ever go beyond 1. I think this card is either like one of those cards that should be at 1 or be at 0 and never be at anything more than that, because I think at 3 it's kind of insane, and at 1 it's kind of just like, okay, you draw it, you sack me, that's fine. It's like kind of like Maxi, you draw that one Maxi, you sack me, kind of thing. But anyway, that's not neither here nor there. So anyway, guys, tell me what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Tell me what you guys think about Imperial Order. Tell me what you guys think about the Snatch Deal argument in general. Tell me if you can find other hidden outs that I don't actually know about for Imperial Order in the comment section down below. I will see you guys in the next video. This has been Team Metamorphos, and I will be signing